One time someone asked me why I like basketball so much. My response was that it's like watching math unfold in real time. They rightfully looked at me like I was an idiot, but I can't explain it. I enjoy sports like some people enjoy scratch-offs, I suppose. I mean, just look at this shot.
Curry, way downtown, bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry! With 0.6 of a second remaining!
As if there wasn't enough pressure on next turn.
Yep.
There is looming doom. A Rift Bolt and a Lotus Bloom set up for next turn for Gabriel Nassif, trying to win this game off a mulligan to 4.
Patrick Chapin do.
Chapin.
This is Gabriel Nassif. 11 years ago at the World Championship in 2007. Before the streaming, before the Hall of Fame, before winning a Pro Tour with a 61 card deck, before Amaz didn't know who he was.
Yellow what is now rating of a party of 180. Wait, who's that?
He was just a guy on his 8th Pro Tour top 8 with his back against the wall on a mulligan to 4. Oh, and he's playing against this guy. This is Patrick Chapin. Worlds 2007 marks his 3rd Pro Tour top 8, so, you know, he's doing pretty well for himself. He's also on his way to the Hall of Fame, and he's in pretty good shape here. His opponent has just mulliganed to 4, and he's about to combo off for the win. A semifinal exit gives one of these players about $14,000, while making the finals guarantees them $22,000 with a shot at $40,000 for winning that match. So yeah, despite the look on his face, he's probably feeling pretty good. I mean, yes, these guys built this deck together, and yes, they are close friends, and I'm telling this story completely out of order. Let's back up. Okay, so back in the day, Pro Tours weren't divided up into 6 rounds of limited and 10 rounds of constructed. They were just one format. You just played one format all day. The once-a-year exception to this was Worlds, and in Worlds 2007, there were actually 3 formats. 5 rounds of Standard, 5 rounds of Legacy, and 6 rounds of Lorwyn Draft. And for Worlds 2007, Gabriel Nassif, Patrick Chapin, and a 3rd very powerful wizard by the name of Mark Herberholtz, maybe you've heard of him, conspired to get together and break the format. The standard metagame was made up of only a handful of decks. Fairies decks without Bitter Blossom, because Morningtide hadn't come out yet. Black-green mid-range decks with stuff like Garruk Wildspeaker and Hypnotic Spectre. And Pickles decks, named Pickles for the Brine and Brine Elementals. So yeah, those were the decks. A week before the tournament, Chapin pitched a deck he saw in a Grand Prix side event built around Spinerock Knoll and Dragonstorm. The way the deck typically won was by casting 3 spells and then a Dragonstorm as a 4th spell. Thanks to Storm, 4 copies of Dragonstorm would go on the stack, each searching up a copy of Bogarden Hellkite that would each deal 5 damage to their opponent upon entering the battlefield. And if that didn't work, well, those dragons got to attack the very next turn. Dragonstorm decks existed in Standard before this version, but they relied on Seething Song to simultaneously add to the storm count and make a bunch of mana to cast the Dragonstorm. Once 9th edition left Standard, Seething Song went with it, and players mostly assumed the Dragonstorm deck wouldn't work without it, because making enough mana to cast a Dragonstorm without Seething Song is really, really tough. At this point, Lorwyn was a brand new set, and Spinerock Knoll turned out to be the missing piece for the Dragonstorm deck. With all the burn in the deck, casting whatever gets hidden under the Spinerock Knoll isn't very hard, and lots of times, you're just casting Dragonstorm or a Bogarden Hellkite for 1 mana. So yeah, Spinerock Knoll was the real deal. Storm was introduced in 2003 in Scourge because I don't know. It is really complicated, and I have a Modern Masters Grape Shot here, and I am going to just read the rules text for Storm. Here we go. When you cast this spell, copy it for each spell cast before it this turn. You may choose new targets for the copies. So what that means is I play a bunch of spells on my turn, most of them cheap, and then bam, you hit them with a Grape Shot, or a Tendrils of Agony, or a Mind's Desire, or whatever Storm card comes to mind to kill your opponent with. It's really, really complicated. So the thing about Storm is that it wants you to play with these mana source cards. Cards like Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual, Rite of Flame, etc. So what you're doing on your key turns with a Storm deck is you're not only tracking the amount of spells you play in a turn, but you're also tracking the mana. And sometimes you have different colors of mana. It can get really complicated, especially with stuff like Manamorphose. So yeah, they don't really make Storm cards anymore, and it's probably fair to argue that they shouldn't have ever done it.
Chapin and Nassif both top-8'd Worlds that year, meeting in the semifinals, which was a best of 5 with the winner moving on to the finals of the World Championships. Game 1. Chapin won despite Nassif resolving a Lotus Bloom first. The next card down in Nassif's deck, a lethal Dragonstorm, meaning if he'd had one more turn, he would have won the game. So we're off to a good start. Game 2, Nassif snaps off a Dragonstorm for 2, gets 2 Bogardan Hellkites, and wins the very next turn. Here's the call for Game 3.
Nassif's looking at a draw with a couple of shocks and a Rite of Flame. That draw's garbage. Yeah, that's got to be a mulligan, right?
Wrong! He kept that. He lost the game, but he kept it. I mean, it wasn't a bad keep, at least in hindsight. Nassif was a turn away from winning when Chapin comboed off with Grapeshot and Pyromancer Swath, but he lost all the same. So, we're on to Game 4, and oh boy, we have mulligan to 5.
Alright, Nassif, 2 lands, a shock, a Swath, and a Dragonstorm. I think you got to keep that one. Meanwhile, Uri Peleg has 2 different Planeswalkers.
He's displaying his Planeswalker collection. His collection of Planeswalkers and beads, I believe, are on display in that game.
Cards. This draw is actually not actually better than the 6-card draw, right?
No.
The 6-card draw with 2 lands, a Swath, a Dragonstorm.
I mean, basically, he has to go...
Hellkite for a shock.
I just showed you 3 Rites of Flame and a Dragonstorm.
He just has to go rights. Off the top of his deck for the next couple turns.
I mean, he can shuffle to 4. He can still get Lotus, Dragonstorm. 4 can be better than that.
Can be.
I don't know if it's better than that often enough. But, like, what is he throwing? He cashes it in.
He's going to 4. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Hi, okay, real quick. If you play Magic, I want you to think about how many times you've mulliganed to 4 ever. Doesn't have to be exact, just a rough estimate. Now that you've got that rough estimate in your head, I want you to think about those games. How many of them did you win?
Are they watching our game? I'm just cheering because that's like Americans do. Go. Everyone in the audience cheer really loud if his hand is nuts.
Oh, Chapin's broken the format.
So this back against the wall in the 2007 World Semifinals, Gabriel Nassif kept a 4-card hand of Rite of Flame, Molten Slag Heap, Rift Bolt, and Grapeshot. Not a terrible hand, all things considered. The 2 decks don't really have any way to interact with each other. They're just trying to see who can combo off first. They're not really doing anything other than racing.
As if there wasn't enough pressure on next turn.
Eventually the game comes to this. Nassif has a snow-covered mountain, a molten slag heap with 2 storage counters, a fungal reaches, and a spine rock knoll with a Bogardan Hellkite hidden away underneath it, along with a suspended Lotus Bloom and a suspended Rift Bolt, each with 1 time counter apiece. His hand, a Rite of Flame, a Grapeshot, and an Ignite Memories. He's at 18 life. Chapin untaps with 2 fungal reaches, one with 4 storage counters, a snow-covered mountain, a spine rock knoll with an incinerate underneath it, and a Rift Bolt on suspend with 1 counter on it. After sending the suspended Rift Bolt at Nassif's head, putting him to 15 life, and drawing, Chapin's hand is 2 Bogardan Hellkites, a Dragonstorm, a Rite of Flame, an Ignite Memories, a Grapeshot, and a Tarfire. Tarfire puts him to 13, Rite of Flame adds some mana, and a Grapeshot for 4 puts Nassif to 9, clearing the way for an Ignite Memories for 5. Just to reiterate, Nassif's at 9 life with a hand of Rite of Flame, Grapeshot, and an Ignite Memories of his own.
The nice thing about poker is that you can get dealt a hand and kind of calculate the odds that it's going to be the best hand. Obviously, the best hand could still get folded, but one of the core tenets of poker is that certain cards just beat other cards. That means a telecaster can look at 2 hands and say, okay, this hand is the favorite if those 2 hands go head to head or both go all in or whatever. This doesn't really track to Magic super well. Sure, an ace is going to beat a deuce like a terror is going to beat a crawworm, but the value of the terror to crawworm interaction varies really wildly from game to game. The Pro Tour broadcast tries to play odds maker with that advantage bar, but it's really, really hard to calculate with any kind of accuracy what the outcome of a game is going to be. This game, though, that we're looking at, that is the exception to the rule, and that is why I want to talk about it. So after Patrick Chapin puts that Ignite Memories on the stack, his hand is 3 cards. It is Bogardan Hellkite, and Dragonstorm. They're really expensive cards, right? So if Gabriel Nassif gets to live to the next turn, his Ignite Memories is gonna hit a bunch of expensive cards. So yeah, Patrick Chapin's Ignite Memories determines the outcome of this game one way or another.
All right, one more time. Nassif's hand is a Rite of Flame, a Grape Shot, and an Ignite Memories. But the text on the cards is irrelevant at this point. All that matters is their mana cost. So Nassif has a 1, a 2, and a 5, and he's at 9 life. Since Chapin's got 5 copies of Ignite Memories on the stack, if one of those Ignite Memories hits Nassif's 5 mana card, Chapin wins no matter what. He can hit a 5 and 4 1s, and it's still gonna add up to 9. Likewise, if Chapin hits more than 3 2s, Nassif loses because 2 + 2 + 2 + 2 + 1 equals 9. So that's where we're at. Nassif's looking at a 10.7% chance of survival. The 2 use a die as a random way to figure out which card each Ignite Memories hits, so away we go. And the first reveal is...
Great shot. If Pat ever hits the Ignite Memories, I believe this game is over.
As we already covered here, Randy is indeed correct. If one of Chapin's Ignite Memories hits Nassif's Ignite Memories, the game is over. With only 4 copies of Ignite Memories left on the stack as opposed to 5, Nassif's odds of winning have improved dramatically. I'm just kidding, he's looking at a 13%er.
Oh, there's the Grape Shot. He's at 5 with 3 more coming.
Okay, still same rules. Still can't hit Ignite Memories or we're dead on the spot. The odds of surviving the 3 remaining copies of Ignite Memories jump up to 14.81%. In other words, the odds still haven't moved significantly one way or another.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Just missed the Ignite Memories, and Gabe still got a shot.
Peels it out.
What is it? What is it?
You have how many copies left?
3 more. Oh, this is the third. 2 more.
Great shot. He's still in it. It's got to be right. Can Nassif go runner?
All right, so what Randy means by that is that the 2 remaining copies of Ignite Memories are only allowed to hit 1 out of the 3 cards in Nassif's hand. Rite of Flame. There's an 11.1% chance of survival now because Nassif has to hit 1 out of 3 twice in a row.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 4.
Yes!
What started out as a 10.7% chance of survival is now a clean 33.3%. 1 out of 3.
Chapin can't believe this is happening. Like, you balling into
1, 2,
4.
3, 4, 5, 6.
He hits the Rite of Flame.
And you gotta flip it though. No peeking. I gotta see.
Slam it.
Oh my goodness! Gabriel Nassif survives 5 copies of Ignite Memories. He's got 1 point of life left. Pat Chapin was looking at that scene in the finals. He thought he had it. Those odds were absurd.
Yeah, Gabriel Nassif playing off the top of the deck. That's what we talked about. This is Orsini Jones' plan. Get some threats. Top deck or no. Nassif forced to play off the top of his deck. He's going to slow roll all of us, himself included. He's drawn the card face down in front of him, and he hasn't even looked at it yet. He's trying to figure out, what can it be? What do I need it to be? Arrange my lands. He's got a sort of sly smile on his face.
My ultimatum mana.
Oh, this is Ultimatum Mana. That's the card that he wants. Cruel Ultimatum is the card he's hoping to top deck. And... Ultimatum! Off the top!
Oh Yellow Hat! That makes more sense. Wait, I still don't know who Yellow Hat is.
Pro Smash players got together and did a Comedy Central style roast where simply would you be willing to be the first Magic player to get a roast? As in, people roast me? Dude, that's literally every feature match I play. Commentator Simon Gersh is like, oh, he's playing so slow.